Good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started with our technical assistance webinar. This is Natasha Telger, and we'll have Dee Reinhardt with us. And to get started, some of the things that I wanted to, or we wanted to cover today, was to go over the orientation tools. I see a person has that marked down. And we did just release some updated orientation web pages. So we'll take a quick look at that, and I want to get your feedback on those. And then we wanted to provide an update on the process for, or we had a lot of discussion about the 2151 and the first appointment and all that kind of good stuff. So Dee will be providing an overview of what that process. So if you hadn't had a chance to select your region, go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and share my computer screen. So if you have any questions, you haven't had a chance to type those in yet, you can go ahead and put them into the main chat pod. Okay. Now, as we get started, if you need to have like a larger view of my computer screen, then up in the upper right-hand corner, there's an icon with 4 arrows pointing out to the corners. You can click on that, and then it expands it to full screen, and just select it again to get it back to the size that it starts out with. So one of the things, and the person who had selected that they had questions or wanted to go over the orientation tools, if I'm not covering specifically what you're referring to, then just please go ahead and put that in the chat pod, and we'll take a look at your specific questions. Okay, so one of the changes that was put into production last week, or let's see, I guess it was on Tuesday, was the going from a single page for each region to pages that can be used across each region. And we have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And in step 1, we have all of your regional flyers that are available, plus the PowerPoint that's over here, as well as the transcripts of the videos. So if you need those for anyone, those are available. Then we have the random assignment transcripts, as well as the handouts that they can use to check off, and they can use to write down the username and password for the person. So those are all available on the step 1 page. The big change was with the step 2 page, and the reason for this was to let them narrow down, or actually focus their research on the areas that may be of interest to them. So they can see any of these industries. And one of the big things I want to point out is it's really important just to let everybody know that the very first thing you need to do is select your region. Otherwise, you're going to be seeing programs across the state. So if I had selected region 5, I can see the different programs that are available. So if there's a 0 there, that means that there's not a program for that area. But I can see that like health science, I could do manufacturing, if those are my interest areas. Then find a program that works with their circumstances, because we know a lot of these customers are in the situation because they have a barrier to employment. So we want to make sure that we're aligning them with programs that will work with that, whatever circumstance they're currently in. So they can say, maybe they don't have any of these items, or let's say maybe I have 3 or more moving violations. Then I can go ahead, and if I don't want my neighbor that's sitting next to me at the computer next to me to see my circumstances, I can hide those. so that those aren't available for everyone to see. And then I can see that the different programs that are available in that region. I can see the career information, a quick glance at how long it would take to complete that training program, how I can access that program, by what types of transportation, and what we will be adding. Dee has been putting together some videos, and so once those are finalized, then we will put up a playlist that will have a standard video that just kind of covers just a blanket range of the training programs that are in this particular area in health science, and it's going to cover information across the state. And then what in this case it'd be like your training programs can range anywhere from 16 weeks to up to 52 weeks, and kind of give some information about wages and that type of thing. So we'll put those videos out there, playlists, so we'll still have videos where they can look at the information, but they can click on any of these items and they get all of the baseline information. And as we have the training providers complete the training profile for those training programs, they'll be able to see that information too. Okay. And then for step 3, currently what we have them doing is completing the online assessment, where they can take they can select up to 3 different industries, and then they'll complete the baseline assessment, and that's how the matches are made with potential programs that they could enter. And then they would complete the NOCD, and then once they do that, then they schedule their follow-up appointment so that they come back for the consent form and go through random assignment and all that kind of good stuff. So, sorry. So for the person who has a question about the orientation tools, does this cover the information that you were that you had questions about, or was it just kind of going over those items? Okay. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put up some polling questions here, and I'll just put them right over the top of my screen share for now. And one of the things that I'd like to know is, have you had an opportunity to use the new layout for any of your orientations? We have about 20 people on, so I'll give you guys a chance to answer those questions. Okay, so some people have. It doesn't look like everybody's answering them, but okay. So let's go ahead and put the next one up. I see someone's typing, so that's good. Okay, so the next thing is, did they seem to understand the training program page? So, we know that this is mainly the new area, and we always kind of, try to strike that balance of what's too much information to put on a page and what's too little information to put on a page. So far it looks like the 2 people that said yes, they've used the orientation. 2 out of the 3 people that have used the orientation, the new layout with the orientation, they seem to. Okay. Okay, so far, okay, that's good to know that the people have used it. so far. So that they seem to know what to do on the page. And then the other piece of that is, so for the current content that's on the page, of those people that have, I guess even if you haven't had orientation yet, you can still answer this question. What do you think about the current content? Is the content fine? Does it need a little bit more instruction on the page? Is it too much or other? Okay. Okay. Industries, other information. Let me know a little bit what you mean by industries and other information. Oh, okay, the video. So yes. Yep. So we will be adding the video. So yes, we will have that. Okay, I see another person typing, and we'll just give that person just a moment. Too much know what profession they want. Okay. I see another person's typing, so we'll give everybody a few moments to be able to provide feedback. So for the one, if too much of a person doesn't know what profession they want, do you have any suggestions on what you think would work best with those customers? Okay. All righty. Okay. Well, what we'll go ahead and do, are there any other questions or comments that anybody would like to mention while we have this up or on this topic? Okay, gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I know Dee was going to cover this information. I'm not sure if she's available at the second. So let me go ahead and I will go through this document. Let me move these over out of the way. And whenever she's available, she can go ahead and jump in. But for right now, okay, so in our past webinars and meetings, there's been quite a bit of discussion over using the 2151 and, that piece of, we've gone through random assignment. Now the person is in the EPIC services group, and now we need to assign them to a CBO, and they need to go for their first appointment, and then they need to start this process for getting into the program and communicating back effectively to the DHS staff of, where they are. So what we've done is, we've been working with Dee and Deidre and Alan and Diana and a variety of people. And so we had put together a flow chart basically, and we took the comments and feedback that we also received from the DHS caseworkers that have provided feedback, and put that all into a flow chart, and then we worked through that with Alan Summers to identify the details and where things should be occurring and all that kind of good stuff. And so that it's up on my screen. It needs to be a final proof, and then we'll make it available to everybody. But we are also updating the progress page and the enrolled customer dashboard to work with this process. So that's already in the works, and I'm hoping that it will be available to be moved to production on next Thursday. So I'll go through this. So the basic process is that I'm not sure if you can see my point. Let's see if I can get a pointer here. So, oh, okay. Anyway, so in this first section, you use the appointment tool to make an appointment with the CBO, and then the best case scenario is the person attends their first scheduled appointment. Everything is wonderful. They CBO updates the 2151 form within the 48 hours, and the customer is enrolled into the program, and everything, life is good. Okay. The other situation is the customer does not show up for the appointment, and so the CBO can continue to follow up with this person, but they must upload the 2151 form within 48 hours of the appointment. And if they haven't heard back or been able to reschedule with this person, then they will have to upload the 2151 form with recommend conciliation. And actually, it would be the actual document or item on the document, I believe, is no contact from customer or from client. So whenever they select that item, then it will go ahead and populate the dashboard so that you know that they're recommending conciliation. So once that starts, then that would be, again, the standard DHS process for the conciliation sanctioning process. And so, as I mentioned before, they can attempt to reschedule. They make notes on the dashboard, enter case notes if they need to. If they contact the customer by phone or email, they can update the information in LMyWorkNet and the EPIC tool so that they can, reschedule that date. And if they don't show up for the second rescheduled appointment, then if they do show up for the second rescheduled appointment, then they complete the 2151 form and let you know that either the client assessment is completed or the client services have been initiated, the customer's enrolled and immediately engaged. So if the customer, let's say that they come in, or I would say my appointment was for yesterday at 3 o'clock and I didn't show up, but I showed up, today at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then they could either reschedule it or they can go ahead and complete that intake process that they do, at the CBO. And then they, revise the 2151 form and upload it, and then that's made available on the enrolled dashboard. If the CBO reschedules appointment and they don't show up, then the next step is to upload the 2151 form and say that they recommend conciliation, and they note on the dashboard and so forth. And then that starts that process with the DHS office. If they don't show up for the second one, or they don't ever get any response from them, then they could just continue on with the conciliation process. So we will be updating the dashboard so that you know it'll identify whenever an appointment hasn't been scheduled, if there's a scheduled appointment that hasn't occurred yet, it's still in the future, or whenever there is the appointment has been scheduled, it'll say the appointment has been scheduled, and the CBO basically still has their 48 hours to tell you what the status is. And then there will be a section that will say, okay, well, the initial appointment was supposed to happen 49 hours ago, and the CBO still owes you a response. You'll be able to see that. And then you'll be able to see whenever the CBO is recommending conciliation. And then you'll also be able to see when they're recommended for, whenever the referral has been accepted and they've been enrolled into the program. I see some typing. Okay, so let me go ahead and while you finish typing.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late. What do you think about this process?
When we say conciliation in terms of dashboard, there'll be a spot. There's not a spot currently on the dashboard that says recommend conciliation, but there will be. It doesn't refer to us. Okay. And so basically, whenever they're in, they've been recommended for conciliation, and then that's when the DHS office, does their standard process for the conciliation and sanctioning piece. And then so they'll basically stay in recommend conciliation until, we know that either one, their appointment has been rescheduled, and so then they'll move back to the rescheduled piece. So, they're back in the queue. Or else, the other thing we're adding is the ability for the DHS caseworker to, identify, let us know if the person is SNAP eligible or not. And when the syncing occurs with IES, then we'll get that information from IES. But until then, we're going to go ahead and add a manual piece so that if the person is no longer SNAP eligible, then you can just let us know.
We've got a question from Leslie in April about two separate flow charts because mandatory versus voluntary areas. So we need to get word from Tammy and or DHS, but the thought process behind this is even though they're in the voluntary area, we still want to track what's going on and keep people in the loop and use the dashboard as a communication tool, because once they're assigned to the study, we need to keep them in progress. We may not necessarily be able to sanction them and their food stamps if they're in a voluntary position, but we do need to continue to track them. So that if we try to maintain the same process for everybody, it will be able to be consistently viewed and reviewed by those of us who aren't in the field with you every day.
I see one person says, as it shows, they do a conciliation, then they recommend sanction if the customer doesn't do their conciliation. Well, I don't see that. What happens is if they don't do the conciliation the way I understand it, then we don't necessarily have a recommend sanction. They would still update their 20, like, so let's say their second appointment occurred, and whenever they uploaded their 2151 after the second meeting, and they said no contact from the client, then it would just, that's the same as far, yeah, okay, yeah, so, okay, so I'm like reading the chat as we go through here. So right now it says recommend sanction, but that's not, like, what I'm saying is that we're going to update the enrolled dashboard to match this process. So it basically, no appointment's been scheduled, recommend conciliation, enrolled, or the customer's not eligible.
Right. The dashboard has not been updated yet. We're just we just got, I don't know if Natasha said this enough, but this process just got approved yesterday. So we're sharing it with you first. We haven't even shared it with the CBOs yet.
Right, and the way I understand for the voluntary process, the counties, I mean, I would still say that, if there's no customer contact, I know if you can't do conciliation, it's still reaching out to them. And so I know we don't have, like the carrot or stick, whichever way you want to call it, for, encouraging them to meet their appointment times. But we were trying to use, the same basic process across the board. So, maybe it's more of a wordsmithing piece for that, or another level, or I don't know if that's another level is the right word, another line item maybe. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? I know Deidre can't be on this call today, but they are still having the discussions about staffing, so I just want to let you know that that hasn't gone away. It's still being discussed. We were just trying to really hone in on this particular process and wanted to give you an update on that. So I see there are some people typing. Okay.
Did you go over the 2151 and then the 2151A, the importance of that? Or do you want me to handle that?
Well, go ahead. Whatever you wanted to add.
On this, in this block where the customer's enrolled and we need to upload the 2151 and the 2151A, all of this that we need to make sure that we're putting in there is for planned activity. So I just wanted to stress that. 2151 is if they show up for their appointment, and then immediately also upload a 2151A with what their planned hours and activity are scheduled to be for either the remainder of the month and or in the first part of the following month.
Right, and that's all this information we have to, you guys are the first ones to hear about it, so we have to update the information and send this message to the CBOs. So.
April's question. Since EPIC is voluntary, can we complete a conciliation after their failure to attend the initial orientation, or since we are a mandatory county, do we refer them to the SNAP ENT through our provider? Is the
No, they agreed to be, I mean, if they're at this point in time, they agreed to be in the study. This is the path that they chose.
So if they don't show up to their initial appointment, you submit the request for conciliation within 48 hours of them not showing up for their appointment. But then you can also still follow the CBO can also follow the process to try and get them rescheduled.
Yeah. So yes, the CBO asked if the customer would still be counted in the study number even if DHS sanctioned the case. Yes, they would be. So that's why it's really important that we try to get these people. We don't want them sanctioned. We really don't want them sanctioned. We want them in the training programs, and we want them to succeed. Yeah, we're just following. We just want to make sure that we're following the DHS, policy, protocol, whatever you want to call it. But no, whatever we can do to get them into the training programs to be successful, that's what we want.
Okay, we got a couple people typing. True.
Yes, yeah.
Sanctioning does sometimes assist getting customers to do what they need to be doing.
Yes.
We're hoping that just the threat of the sanction will keep them moving in the right course.
Yes. Yeah, I guess maybe I didn't say that correctly. We just want them to stay eligible for their SNAP benefits, and so that they can, do all the steps that they need to do in order to, get into the training program so that we can help them. CBOs can help them.
Vivian, are you a CBO or are you a DHS person?
Yeah, no, okay, so the orientation process, that is something different and than what we're talking about now. But I do remember Alan mentioning something about this as far as you invite them to the orientation and they don't show up to the orientation, then you would follow whatever your proper protocol is for, if they're required to come to something and they don't do it, then you would follow whatever your normal DHS procedures are at that point in time. And it's really more about, they come to the orientation or EPIC orientation and decide if that's one of the things that they want to do for, to meet the requirements.
And so I think this is Chris typing for Region 1. If you're a mandatory county and you sent them a 1721, then they need to show up. And then he's saying if they miss, then you send them the 2846G. And that starts the process. And then if they don't show up, that's when they can be sanctioned, especially if they're in a mandatory area.
Yeah, and so the process flow that you see on your screen is kind of it's still that it's still following up and making sure that they attend the appointment they're supposed to attend, but it's down the road further. Like what you're talking about is right at just inviting them to orientation, whereas the process flow that we covered earlier is after they've already gone through orientation and they've already been signed a consent form saying that they would participate in the study, and then been assigned to the EPIC services group after random assignment.
So maybe, Natasha, what I need to do is, in that very first box, is put at random assignment, DHS schedules intake appointment. And that's where I think that might clear this up just a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, and maybe the title.
Right.
Put something
Right.
in there about.
So I can
So
make a couple changes on this to make it clearer than mud.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Looks like a couple people are typing. Thank you, Mara.
Okay. Well, we have some other people typing, but okay.
Yes, you're correct. The CBO does complete the initial 2151, but if the participant does not bring it with them, the CBO has the ability to download and print and then upload the 2151, because that lets us know in the Illinois WorkNet system that they attended orientation. If they miss that first orientation meeting, then the CBO can reschedule them and refill out the 2151.
So here's what's going to happen is that they'll go to a customer that has been, let me zoom in a little bit. They're going to go to a customer, the person's going to come to the CBO, and they can bring their 2151 form. And there is a section that has to be completed by the CBO. I'm on non-test, and it's being slow for me. There we go. And so they come to this page, and they can, download the 2151 form if the customer has it, or not. And it's going to populate with whatever we have available at the time. This is an older one. So, whatever information is needed. Now, the thing is that we're trying to use this form in order to automatically populate the dashboard, okay? So with the 2151A, just as though there's sections in the 2151A that the system, when they upload it, it will do a check. Number one, it does an edit check to make sure that those areas are filled out. And then number two, it takes that information from that form and uses it to automatically populate the dashboard. So it does a couple things. One, it saves you a step in having to remember to do another click. But also it makes us, make sure that the latest form that was updated and in the system accurately reflects the dashboard accurately reflects what the latest information that's been uploaded into the system. So we're going to use that same basic approach for the 2151. What I was talking about before is the 2151A. Right now, we're going to make an update to the 2151 so that some of the information that you as DHS need to know is this information, as I understand, that needs to be completed by the CBO. And so at least this is the way that this is the information that we have, is that they say that the client assessment was completed, or service was initiated, or both, or there's no contact from the client, or for whatever reason, maybe they rejected the referral. So it's going to do an edit check for these different areas. And so what that means is that the CBO is going to have to download this form, because they're going to need an electronic version of this form. And because when they upload it, the system's going to check for these boxes, and it'll automatically populate the enrolled dashboard. And then DHS will know exactly, if we're good to go, or do we need to follow up with these people because they're, in the yellow area, and that type of thing. So the other thing that we do recognize is that there are some areas where, let's see here, that may have been filled out by the DHS caseworker, and they said that, I have these different things, and, I need a signature from the client that says that it's okay to, get that information and disclose that information. Then we do understand that there are some cases where you're going to need to have like a PDF, like a JPEG or, picture version, graphic version, stand-in version of this document. And so we will be able to upload those as well. So they'll have the primary method would be to upload an electronic version where the system can check these and automatically populate the dashboard with the most recent documentation that's been uploaded. But then we'll also have another upload button where if you need to have a scanned-in version of this, that you can have it available and in the system with the customer's file. But the way the system works, it won't take a scanned-in version and be able to check, do these edit checks. So we would need to have those two options available.
Leslie, does that answer your question? Great.
Okay, good. All righty. Well, we will let you know as soon as this information is available and out on production. And so I fully anticipate being able to demonstrate or, show you these tools with these updates next Friday.
And watch your emails for updates from the field in case there's other little things that get updated along the way.
Okay. Well, we've gone over our time, so thank you, everyone. We'll go ahead. You can keep asking questions, and we'll stay on. But if you have to go, then you are welcome to. Thanks, everyone.